Hey guys, what's up? It's Alex of Caddy Star Astrology. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. And today we're going to be talking about the planet Jupiter. We're going to be looking at Jupiter in depth, but specifically we're going to be looking at Jupiter in Capricorn and how to best welcome in, harness, embrace, and kind of get cozy with Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn. Jupiter does not really like to be in Capricorn. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and in Sagittarius, Jupiter can indeed have the most fun and kind of cast out its net and pull in perhaps the most abundance and play and freedom. However, there are a lot of unseen strengths and codes of abundance within Jupiter and Capricorn. So I'm going to be focusing on those today. As well as at the end of the video, I do have a little treat for you guys, and I put this in the title. I am going to be going through Jupiter through each of the houses. Now, this is only really going to be a benefit to you if you know which part of your chart Jupiter is transiting for 2020. So that's important to know, and the way you can figure that out is by reaching out to an astrologer such as myself. We can do a reading and I can tell you, or you can go to a website such as astro.com that has one of those chart calculators. You can draw your own chart and figure out which house is ruled by Capricorn. That'll be one of the segmented slices of your chart, which one of those rules Capricorn, and that's going to be where you're going to have this Jupiter and Capricorn energy, as well as Saturn and Pluto. So if you're here for that, if you're here for the part where I'm talking about Jupiter and which part of your chart it's transiting, you can go ahead and skip to the end. And you can find that there. Otherwise, if you want to stick around to talk about Jupiter, that's where we're going to start now. And I'm going to start by looking at the symbol of Jupiter, because you guys know that I love to do that. I love to look at these symbols. They carry such magic, and the more that we can understand the symbols, the more that we understand the planets themselves. So with Jupiter here, kind of looks like the number 4. There's really 2 parts to this symbol. There's the cross of matter on the lower portion, and the upper portion of the symbol is called the crescent of the subconscious, or the crescent of receptivity. We also notice that the Jupiter symbol is more or less just the Saturn symbol flipped right side up, which has a lot of significance, and we'll talk about that. In the symbol for Saturn, the cross of matter is dominating. It's on the top, whereas in the symbol for Jupiter, the cross of matter is found on the bottom. So let's dissect this. The cross of matter represents the nature of physical reality. So there's something very distinctly human about this. It's very 3D. The cross of matter has to do with the nature of the 3D, the limitations and the restrictions that come along with the third dimensional reality. Third dimensional reality, of course, deals with linear time, past, present, future, sensory experience. And the cross of matter really reminds us that although our spirit may be eternal, which it is, you know, we're in these bodies temporarily, but we all have a spirit that lives on forever and is immortal. The cross of matter reminds us that although our spirit may be immortal and eternal, here on the earth plane, we are subject to the limitations of time and space. The crescent of receptivity, or the crescent of the subconscious, as it's also termed, is about the part of us that is receptive, that is receiving, that is always learning and absorbing like a sponge new experiences that eventually lead to growth. And you can see that the crescent, which is, by the way, the symbol for the moon, right? Our subconscious, our intuitive self. The crescent looks like a cup or a chalice, which represents our receptivity or our openness to experience. It's kind of like an antenna. represents our receptivity to experience and the downloads that we get that eventually make up the framework of our subconscious, which then essentially builds the reality that we exist in and how we experience it. So in the symbol for Jupiter, you can see that the crescent of the subconscious is above or dominating the cross of matter. And this right here really explains the magic of Jupiter, because what this suggests is that by harnessing or experiencing the energies of Jupiter, we have in some ways transcended the limitations of the physical reality of the earth plane. So this is why Jupiter is associated with luck, because luck is this kind of like fantastical, almost like a loophole. It's something out of the ordinary happening to your benefit, like winning the lottery or finding, $100 bill in the gutter. That's Jupiter. It's kind of like, well, this is unexpected and awesome and serendipitous and magical. That's Jupiter energy. It's abundance. So with Jupiter, the subconscious has risen above matter and is now no longer confined to it or confined by it. So Jupiter is where we can really have a lot of fun, where we can step outside the normal, essentially, rule set and have some pretty amazing, expansive, and abundant things come through, because it's almost like we're able to connect with the supernatural part of this reality, which of course also exists, now that we've stepped outside the limitations of the cross of matter. So now when we look at Saturn and we see that the cross of matter is dominating or crushing the subconscious, you can see how when we're looking at Saturnian energies, we are really, despite what we may want, very much bound to the nature of physical reality, which is what makes Saturn so frustrating and what makes it so tough. In the Saturnian world, if you speed on the freeway, you're probably going to get pulled over if a cop sees you, and he or she is probably going to write you a ticket. Whereas in the Jupiter universe, maybe the cop pulls you over and they walk up to the window and the cop is the lady that you got in a conversation with at the grocery store yesterday, and she recognizes you and you guys laugh it off and she lets you go. Like, you get lucky, something unexpected, and you get freed from the chains of this reality. So again, for this reason, because the crescent of the subconscious is risen above the cross of matter, Jupiter is associated with luck, abundance, expansion, opportunity, and fulfillment. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now that we know this, perhaps you can better understand why Jupiter in Capricorn is not something that's like maybe everyone's super excited about, because Capricorn is Saturnian. Capricorn does deal with the earth plane. However, when we put the two together, when we put Jupiter in Capricorn, this would suggest that we can see all of the Jupiter subjects, all of the Jupiter attributes such as abundance and expansion and luck, however, put through the lens of Capricorn. So this can be success and abundance in matters of the earthly realm, in matters of our long-term goals and our careers, etc. So Jupiter in Capricorn then is associated with ambition, determination. Capricorn is a sign of the goat that's steadily following the upward path over a period of time and eventually reaching the top and eventually reaching this hard-earned success over a period of time. So I am thinking of Jupiter in Capricorn as like this extended release of success, directly related to the work that we're putting in. So there's this sense of nobility that comes with Jupiter in Capricorn, this kind of salt of the earth. You know, I built this on my back and it took a long time. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, but I have built something that I can be proud of. And remembering that Capricorn is about the long term. And this is another reason why I really wanted to do this video, because this is energy that we really want to take advantage of, because the projects that we are putting our work into and the things that we are committing to and stabilizing now are seeds that are going to ripen and come to fruition in the long term. And we are going to be so glad if we took advantage of this energy. Because there isn't going to be all of this Capricorn in the charts forever. There really isn't. It's just time for that cycle right now. And it's time for hard work and application. And now that Jupiter has joined the Capricorn party, there is definitely a lot in the zodiac that is supportive of massive success, because it is Jupiter. So, looking at the symbol and understanding that within the magic and the offerings of Jupiter, the subconscious takes such precedence. We can open more into an understanding of how imperative and important it is that our subconscious be healthy. Because with Jupiter energy, our subconscious is in many ways building the physical reality that we're taking part in. So, for example, tuning into what comes up in your subconscious in the form of resistance right now when it comes to all that you're trying to build in the long term. And this is something that's not often talked about, but just because you're getting lots of opportunity doesn't mean that you always feel 100% great about it all the time. There's something to be said that often our life mission or our life's work can often kind of scare the shit out of us. Just because you're getting opportunities and advancement doesn't mean that you feel freaking great about it every second of every day. You might feel scared. You might have resistance come up of nervousness or not feeling ready or not feeling good enough, fear of committing, feeling like someone else can do or say it better, comparing ourselves to other people. There's all sorts of things that can come up when we're looking at building things for the long term and stepping into our goals. And because Jupiter in Capricorn does have to do with success, which brings in the topic of finances, which can definitely be the case this year if Jupiter is transiting your second house or your eighth house, what about those deep-seated, weird, subconscious blockages around financial abundance that I think a lot of us have? I mean, myself, like probably many of you, I was raised and programmed on these weird Disney movies, right? And think about the rich people in the Disney movies. It was usually like some really corrupt king or queen that had all the gold and treated the poor people horribly. They were mean and they were greedy and usually straight up the antagonist of the entire movie and were just downright evil in most cases, which, I mean, that's a pretty deep topic in and of itself. But I know in myself, I mean, I can remember being a little kid and being like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be this mean, rich person that's mean to the animals of the forest and does these horrible things. Like, I'd rather be poor. And in these movies and in these old stories, the poor person is usually the one that's, you know, altruistic and has a pure heart and is off, you know, saving the world or whatever. But my point here is that I don't think we have very good models in our current reality for people that do have a lot of money or financial wealth, uh, who are the heroes. I mean, yes, we have some, and I'm always open to hearing about if you guys have these models, because I am building these new models for myself, which is what I'm getting to. Is I think that creating in our minds an idea of what healthy and balanced financial wealth can look like would be really beneficial, because again, it all starts in the subconscious. If we subconsciously think that people that have a lot of money are evil or greedy or whatever, that's going to create resistance in our own being through receiving abundance. Or maybe it's coming the other direction. Maybe for some of us, our idea of abundance is a little bit toxic in other ways, where we are overestimating the amount that we need to feel happy and content. Which brings me to the next lesson that Jupiter carries alchemically, which is changing our ideas around money, around abundance, and recognizing that abundance doesn't always equate to a certain number in the bank. Abundance is a state of mind that is founded in gratitude for having our daily needs met and knowing with full conviction that if we are on our path of Dharma, the universe will make sure that we have everything we need to get the mission done. And as an active player in manifesting my own reality, I can speak to the validity of this. It is pure magic how you can have zero money in the bank, but if your mission requires you to have something, angels do show up and opportunities do arrive for you to get it done. And the more we trust in that process, the more it just happens, and that resistance melts away and the blockages come down and we can relax into our reality, and we don't have to have this scarcity mindset, because a scarcity mindset really comes from lack of trust in the universe, which is like kind of the opposite of Jupiter, right? Jupiter is like, no, I am abundant. I live in a universe that is always providing for me, that always has my back. I know that I'm here to be this, to do this, and the universe will make sure that I have everything I need to get it done. So I think that it can go both ways. And I think that, yeah, creating these new models in our minds of like sort of like heroes that are actively representing these very altruistic character traits when it comes to wealth and abundance can be really beneficial, because when we have role models, then we can step into that archetype. By the way, Jupiter is going to be dancing with Pluto all year. They're going to conjunct in late March and again in early November. And Jupiter will be in Capricorn till end of December. So it is going to be a prominent energy this year. So now we're going to transition to me talking about Jupiter through the houses. So again, you're going to want to know which house Jupiter is transiting for you, because that is where you can expect to experience some of this Jupiter expansion energy. And when Jupiter is ill aspected, it can become a little bit of a loose cannon. So I'm going to be talking about Jupiter transiting through whatever house and the positive elements of increase that one could experience. I'm also going to briefly caution what can happen when Jupiter is ill aspected, which usually has to do when you're talking about Jupiter with like overdoing it or overindulging in some way, but depending on what house it's in, it's going to be in a different area of life. So without further ado, we're going to start with Jupiter in the first. So Jupiter transiting the first house. The first house is all about the egocentric identity structure. It's all about the ego. It's all about the personality, the way we look, the way we talk, the presence that we command in a room. So when Jupiter is in the first house, remembering that it just came out of the 12th house, so it's the beginning of a new cycle. So this to me really feels like emerging from the cocoon. This is a new year, new me. I'm taking on new responsibilities. Because Jupiter's in Capricorn, this could be taking on a position of authority in some way, having a more command over one's life, one's goals. It opposes the 7th house, so this could be taking on a new level of agency or sovereignty despite one's relationships, becoming more independent, more in control of one's life. Could be becoming or assuming the role of a teacher or a leader. And yeah, reaching new levels of personal growth and self-mastery. When Jupiter is in the first house, if it's ill aspected, wanting to watch for like an overblown ego or too much of a sense of self-importance, that kind of thing. Yeah, I guess when Jupiter is ill aspect in the first, it's almost like the negative traits of like a Leo or an Aries, kind of like taking up a little bit too much space, getting a little too big for one's britches, just like, okay, reel it in. We all know you're great. It's okay. Being like a little bit too dominant with one's presence or one's energy. But Jupiter through the first, yeah, associated with an increase or positive growth within one's personality, self-confidence levels, etc. Jupiter through the second house. Second house is associated with finances. So this is potentially an improved financial situation, possibility of a raise, a loan, attracting abundance in a new way, potentially becoming generous through finances towards others. A increase or growth in one's material possessions. Yeah, just having the luxury element of life turned up a notch. Maybe raising one's rate because we've worked hard and we've reached a new level of expertise, getting promoted to a new department where you're making more money, potentially just attracting more clients so you're getting more money coming in. If Jupiter is ill aspected in the second house, this could be becoming a little bit too extravagant with finances potentially. Jupiter in the second house, ill aspected, is like, you know, going to a dinner party and just feeling a little bit too friendly and saying, drinks on me, everybody. And before you know it, you've bought 100 people cocktails and you look at the bill in the morning and you want to cringe and die. It's like that kind of energy. Jupiter transiting the third house. Third house has a lot to do with the mental attitude, the way that we see the world, our ideas about the world. And when Jupiter's in the third house, this can be the views of the world broadening in some way, the mind kind of blooming and opening up to new possibility. It's the house of research, so this could be taking a course or researching something new, suddenly having an abundance of curiosity about something and learning more and opening oneself up to new information that really kind of just broadens the perception of the world in general. It's also the house of friends, so there is a social aspect to this house. This could be meeting new people, opening oneself up to new social relationships that increase one's perception of the world. It's the house of short journeys. It opposes the ninth house of travel, so there is a travel element to this house. It could be traveling. It's a really favorable transit for writing, publishing, researching, learning, or producing works of literature. Ill aspected, because it is the house of mental attitudes and it is the house of communication. This could be, you know, over asserting oneself, becoming overly opinionated. This is the house of siblings, so this could be a situation with a sibling suddenly getting better, or just new developments within siblings in a positive way. But yeah, Jupiter in the third house, just having our overall outlook of the world increase and expand, opening our mind. All right, Jupiter in the fourth house of home and family. So this is potentially having relationships with family become more harmonious all of a sudden, or just having things feel really good in the home space. You could be buying a home or moving or upgrading the home space in some way, planting a garden, painting the outside of the house, moving to a bigger apartment, having the health of mom or dad suddenly get better, or having the relationship with mom and dad suddenly get better. Something with the home just increasing, expanding. Again, you could change residency, sell the home, or something like that. Ill aspected, Jupiter in the fourth. Well, maybe there's too many family members coming to stay, or you have a new roommate move in and then they party too much and you have to ask them to leave. Something about the home just becoming like too much. Too much. Maybe you work from home and there's too much work at home, or just a lot of focused energy in that arena. But yeah, Jupiter in the fourth is like things at home just suddenly really expanding, really growing. Positive energy coming through the home. Jupiter in the fifth house. Fifth house is the house of social activity, artistic expression, and romance. So this is a fun one. Jupiter through the fifth house could be new love interests, new activity within the romantic aspect of life, more dating, more going out, just more socialization in general. Getting out, having fun. It's the house of fun and kind of flirtation, risk-taking. It's the house of gambling and just going out and having a good time. It's also the house of children. So it could be a successful pregnancy. But it's the house of creative expression. So with Pluto and Saturn having been in that space all 2019, maybe you had some kind of a creative block or you didn't know what you were supposed to do creatively. And then all of a sudden Jupiter comes in and the creative juices start flowing. You're inspired. Maybe while Jupiter, or maybe while Saturn and Pluto were in there, you were single for a long time. And then all of a sudden Jupiter comes in and you've got a lot of opportunities to date new people, meet new people. If Jupiter is ill aspected in this house, it can be reckless behavior, gambling and losing. And because it's the house of children, it could be an unwanted pregnancy, an unexpected pregnancy. That's a fun house for Jupiter. Jupiter in the 6th house. This is the house of daily work, health, and routine. So this could be things just getting better within your daily workspace. Maybe you changed offices and this office has a beautiful view, or you are suddenly working with a colleague that you get along with really well, and it's just making that daily work routine that much more enjoyable. Or perhaps you moved on to a new project and this one you're a lot more excited about, and getting up every day for work is just a lot easier and fun. It's also the house of health, so this could be good news within a health condition that you've been struggling with, or leveling up with your dietary habits, coming to a more sensible place with those. Ill aspected Jupiter in this house could be working too much, suddenly having a lot of responsibility on the day-to-day and not having that much time for fun. You know, kind of like a workaholic thing, getting a little stressed out, a little Virgoic. It is the house of Virgo. And Jupiter in the 6th house can be indulgent because it does rule day-to-day habits. So it could be like eating too much or drinking too much or whatever. But Jupiter in the 6th is associated with positive advancements in health and daily routine and work. Jupiter transiting the 7th house of relationships. This is harmony in our partnerships. So this could be marriage, some kind of positive evolution within relationships, or this could simply be coming into a better place with an existing partner. So maybe Saturn and Pluto were in there making things within a relationship really tough, really hard, really stagnant, and now Jupiter is in there, and maybe you and your partner have come into an entirely new phase of your relationship that's feeling a lot better. This could be meeting new people in general. 7th house rules our relationships with others. So this could be meeting lots of new people, new friendships, new relationships. It's in Capricorn, so it could be making relationships that are going to last the long term. Or growing in a new appreciation for what we look for in friendships. Friendships that are of more quality, more mature, this kind of thing. And when Jupiter in the 7th house is ill aspected, this could be having to put a lot of focus and attention into a relationship for some reason, potentially some kind of outburst within a friendship, some type of issue, or having trouble balancing the needs of a social life and connecting with other people with the needs of alone time or career, work time, having trouble balancing those energies. Jupiter in the 8th, this is the Scorpio house, so it has a lot to do with sex. It has a lot to do with joint finances. So finances that we share with someone else, like a spouse, or banks, loans, investments, this type of thing. It's also the house that contains a lot of psychic faculties, a lot of kind of like the occult, magical stuff. So Jupiter transiting through this space could be coming into a place of increased sexuality or evolving within our sexual nature, becoming more, maybe exploring more with our partner or this kind of thing, studying Tantra. Within finances, this could be because the 8th house rules taxes and inheritances. This could be receiving an inheritance or a favorable tax return, winning a court case, getting a settlement, this kind of thing. Or attuning to our psychic faculties, becoming more intuitive, more in touch with the magic aspect of ourselves. The 8th house is kind of the house of like sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So if negatively aspected, Jupiter in the 8th could be indulging too much in the kind of like scorpionic areas of life. The sex, drugs, rock and roll area of life. So too much sexual experimentation, too much, drinking, or it is a house that can rule addiction. So this can be experimentation in those realms as well. Or because it is the house of joint finances, this could be greed. This could be going after joint finances in a way that's not altruistic. Moving on to Jupiter in the 9th. Jupiter loves to be in the 9th. I had the best time when Jupiter was going through my 9th house. It's the house of Sagittarius. So Jupiter in the 9th is increased travel, increased interest in higher education. When Jupiter was in my 9th house, I've never read so many books in my life. I was reading like 10 books at a time. And the 9th house is the house of astrology, numerology, philosophy, world religions. You could feel like taking on a new language or finally really dedicating oneself to spiritual advancement through knowledge. This could be going back to university or traveling the world. It's the house of travel. So there's a lot of implication for movement when Jupiter is in the 9th. And similar to the 3rd house, it opposes the 3rd house. It is the expansion of the mind through intellectual pursuit. Expanding the mind's knowledge of the world and spirituality. When Jupiter is ill aspected in the 9th, we want to be careful for dogma. This is the asserting that one's view is the only way. Sagittarius can get really wrapped up in that because Sagittarius is on the pursuit of truth. So once it's found a truth, it's sure that that is the ultimate truth. And there are many truths. So this can be becoming dogmatic. Jupiter ill aspected in the 9th could also be like getting caught up in weird spiritual endeavors, especially if it's like squared by Neptune or something. This could be like joining a cult or like getting involved in some weird ass organization or something that's claiming to be providing spiritual knowledge but really isn't, this kind of thing. The search for truth gone awry. That could be in the 9th house. Or accidents through travel if it's ill aspected. But Jupiter through the 9th is a fun one. Traveling the world, learning, thirst for knowledge, and connection with God, source. All right, Jupiter through the 10th house. This is associated with professional advancement, receiving honor or recognition in one's chosen field, the hard work paying off, coming into a place of authority within one's chosen field, being looked up to or being respected in one's field. And if ill aspected, this could be overwork, major, and the abuse of one's authority. Again, getting a little too big for one's britches, getting a little bit too attached to one's identity as it relates to achievement and kind of exerting that power in an obnoxious way over one's environment. But when in balance, this is associated with abundance and expansion and opportunity within one's career. Jupiter in the 11th. The 11th house rules friends, groups, organizations, and social structures. So this can be just meeting lots of new friends, people that are more in alignment with where you are going moving forward. This could be finding and weaving with community. My friend recently had Jupiter enter her 11th house, and like clockwork, she started meeting all of these new people out of nowhere, forming new connections, feeling excited about visions for the future and the people that we want in that future. And because Jupiter is in Capricorn, those relationships, those friendships, and those connections are long-standing, wanting them to be long-standing. Now, if Jupiter is ill aspected while in this house, this could be forming connections and finding out that they aren't what we thought they were, or unusual situations involving social structures or participation within those social structures. Giving too much to an organization, finding out that it's not what it says it is, or something like that. But yes, Jupiter in the 11th, expansion in our friend circles, our community, and our tribe, those that view us within our creative gifts. The 11th house opposes the 5th house of Leo. So Leo, if Leo is the singer on stage, 11th house is the audience. It's the people that view us in our gifts. Who are those people? What do they look like? Etc. That's the 11th, and Jupiter through that space is going to bring in more of those connections. All right, Jupiter in the 12th house. 12th house of Pisces, spirituality, karma. This is the house of the subconscious mind. It's also the house of spirit. So it has our guides, our totems, our animal totems, angels, things beyond the veil. It's also the house of sanctuary and retreat, isolation. So Jupiter through the 12th house can be a new understanding of the subconscious within ourselves, a new understanding of our inner world. This can be seeking spiritual retreat for periods of time while Jupiter transits the space. This can be signing up for a spiritual retreat, going on a Vipassana, doing some shamanic work. This house rules things that we do to seek God, and when we're talking about the 12th house, this is often how we go about that in a non-social context, in a private context. So meditation, breath work, long walks alone in the woods, contemplating our inner world. So this is an increase in understanding of that space within us, and as a result, potentially upgrading in the gifts that reside in that place. So this can be receiving upgrades in our psychic abilities, in our practice, in our yoga practice, in our ability to heal, telepathy, lucid dreaming, manifestation, all of these beautiful spiritual faculties that each of us carry that are kind of hidden like dormant seeds in the subconscious. Jupiter transiting through this space could potentially unlock some of those hidden doors and provide the fertile ground for those seeds to awaken and come into new levels of understanding and activation within those kind of more mystical faculties. 12th house is also very creative and artistic. So there's lots of opportunity for that. When Jupiter is ill aspected in the 12th house, this can be escapist tendencies. 12th house rules addictions as well, as a means to escape physical reality because the 12th house is very fluid. So yeah, this could be checking out. This could be, drinking too much, smoking too much, just wanting to kind of check out and not face reality. And this can have really detrimental consequences, especially if one becomes too ungrounded. So if somebody has Jupiter transiting through the 12th house and it's being ill aspected by Neptune, for example, the ruler of the 12th house, this would be an unfavorable time potentially to go and do something very ungrounding, such as an ayahuasca ceremony or something like that, because it could have a heightened effect and unground the individual. So Jupiter through the 12th is, because it's in Capricorn, is hopefully a grounded exploration of these areas. Just wanting to have caution when Jupiter is being transited by another planet that's forming points of tension, such as a square or opposition. All right, you guys. Well, I really hope that that was helpful for you. I really wanted to do this video. I want everyone to get jazzed about this Jupiter and Capricorn energy, even though there is a lot of Capricorn. And here I do also want to say one other thing that has come up a lot in my videos. I think that it comes up just in astrology talk in general. I had some people in my last video in particular kind of start barking at me about only talking about the quote unquote negative traits of Capricorn. And I want to make something super, super clear here for those that are confused or are feeling triggered by that. When I'm talking about a sign, any sign, in this case Capricorn, I'm not talking about you if you have a Capricorn sun. I'm not talking about Capricorns in general. What we're talking about is the archetype. Astrology is the language of archetypes. And what these archetypes symbolize. And each sign, Aries all the way through Pisces, is a direct reflection of equal parts, both shadow frequency and light frequency, or quote negative and quote positive. They're all equal. None of them are better than the other. The reason that we have been talking about the shadow elements of Capricorn, particularly in the last video, and I'm sure we will all throughout this year, is because Saturn and Pluto are conjunct, which definitely in many ways draws out an imbalance of the shadow elements of Capricorn, which can be felt and seen throughout our world at this moment. I'm not gonna pretend that that's not happening, because it's real. It's, this is like cross of matter stuff. In the 3D, while we're on this planet, that is happening right now. And we will see the positive of Capricorn come through, I expect, this year in some ways, because we have Jupiter in Capricorn, which could bring in some beautiful things for the collective. I mean, Jupiter in Capricorn for the collective can be collective welfare of the community, acceptance and reverence for structure when it is imbalanced. Like, wow, can you even imagine what a benefic world leader could look like? Like a true one who actually has the interests of all in mind. I mean, I think that this is a year where these questions are really going to start coming up because the current system is the way that it is. But anyways, I digress. I just want to make this clear that when I talk about Jupiter in Capricorn, or when I talk about Capricorn, I'm not calling out Capricorn. I do not have a bias. All of these signs have negative traits and positive traits. So don't feel triggered if you're a Capricorn, please. It's a misunderstanding or something isn't fully translating. Understand that we're talking about a language of archetypes. It's symbolic language. All right, you guys, I think I'm going to stop it there. And again, I'm going to put my website right here. You can go there, you can book a reading, and we can look at where Jupiter is going to be transiting your chart for 2020 and the aspects that it might be making so that you can make the most of it and you can make the most of what could be a very successful year with Jupiter in Capricorn. All right, I guess I will see you guys in my next video for the new moon coming up shortly. I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.